Alright, so this is for Mark at Eat Carbs. Mark, you've challenged me to make bannock. I can almost taste it. So I whipped some up the other day while I was watching your video. This is standard flour, baking soda. It's also got a little powdered milk, a little powdered butter. It's got some salt in there. I've added a little bit of oatmeal, quick oats, and I've added a little bit of ground up walnuts, and there's a little bit of flaxseed and chia in there. Not very much, just a little bit to give it a little texture, and some dried cranberries and raisins. Now I've just put a little bit in here. I'm just going to make a little one for me, and this is how I generally do it. I put it in a Ziploc bag. I'm going to add a little bit of water at a time in there. I'm going to mix it up in the bag, which is going to be really messy, and then I'm going to get it out of there. You can poke a hole in there and squeeze it out if it was cake batter or something, but this is going to be bannock. It's going to be dry. I want it dry enough that I can hold it in my hand, not make too big of a mess, and get it in my pan. I've never done bannock this way before. I'm going to do it on my gas stove in my cast iron skillet with some peanut oil, and we'll see how it turns out. So I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in my pan. I'm going to leave my hamburger grease in there from lunchtime. I'm going to cook my bannock on that, just a little bit. I'm going to fry it like pan fry from the heat of the pan, as opposed to saturate it and soak it in boiling oil. You can do that too. I think that's called native fry bread. I'm going to try it this way and see how it goes. We're just experimenting, but I figure, how bad can it really be? So I got my Ziploc bag of bannock mix. I'm going to take my water, and I'm just going to pour in a little bit into the bag. I do have a little bit more bannock mix set aside in case I screw up and put in too much water. I don't want my bannock mix to be too wet. I'm just going to mix it up in there. I can tell already I probably put in too much water. Get that mixed. I don't mix it crazy. I don't worry about the lumps. They will cook out as we're going. If you look in there, that's way too wet. So I'm going to add a little bit more and see if we can temper it a little bit. I want to be able to handle it in my hands and get it in my hot pan without making too big of a mess. I don't want to have to cook it forever. So the drier it is, I find the quicker it cooks. It kind of fries a bit better, I guess, in the pan. I usually do it beside a fire. I've done it in the oven before, but I've never done it on the stove before. So, still a little wet. I'm going to add more of my bannock mixture in there. That might not be my best plan to try to do this one-handed, but I'll put you down here. Some more bannock mix, dry mix going in there. It's easy to put in too much water, and I just think it works better if you have less. Zip this up, maybe a little more rough with it. There we go. So you have to remember, someone told me a long time ago, when you're making bannock, you're making bread. And when you're making bread, you're making dough. You're not making cake batter. You're making dough like you would cookies in your oven. This is still a little bit wet, but I think it'll work. So I'm getting bannock mix everywhere. It's nice, it's sticky, but it's dry. Alright, so I'm going to get my pan heated up here. I'll show you how I do that, and then we're going to let this sit for a few minutes. And when the pan's heated up, we will put that in there. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to wash my hands. Oil in there along with the rest of the hamburger oil. So it's not very deep. I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit less than that, 1/16 of an inch. Not very deep. I don't like to soak my bread in oil, and it's just too greasy for me. I'm too old for that. So we're going to get my bannock out of the bag here, and we'll get it in the pan and popping. I have taken my bannock, I put in the rest of the dry ingredients in there now, and you can see it's a lot less messy. Kind of like if you're making meatballs at home, you know, you don't want them to be slimy and all over your hand. You want to be able to handle them, just like a hamburger patty, meatloaf, whatever you're making. Same concept. It's bread, so you want a nice dough to get her started. And this is going to splatter on me, so I'm going to move it away from the flame. And there we go. The bannock is in. and it's cooking. I'll leave that for a little while, keep an eye on it, we'll see how it goes. Looks like it's crisping up, bubbling. I gotta figure out how to flip this sucker with a spatula. Got rid of some of the oil. Found an old pop can and drained it off in there because it was just a little too hot, I think. I think it's better on just a frying pan. And then in my Esbit stove that I keep in my day pack, I have this little metal sheet that I put in the back to be as a wind block, and I've used that to be my spatula and just gave that a little flip over. It worked pretty well. Bottom looks like it's cooked. I'm gonna try cook the top and hopefully get the middle too. I'll check back in a little bit. So it's still a little bit doughy right in the middle. I can cook that top side a little bit more. I need to find a way to do this so it's not burnt. It does get a crust on it when you do it by the campfire. I'm not so crazy about the way this is working right now, but who knows? Maybe it'll taste good. More brown than black on one side, more black than brown on the other. Mostly cooked through except right in the very middle. It's a little too hot to handle right now, definitely too hot to eat, but there we go. That's good. I highly recommend that. Thanks for the inspiration, Mark. It was a great idea. Let's keep experimenting and see if we can perfect the recipe.